I don't remember a time when my father, Rick, was ever a true parent to me. Growing up, he was more like a fleeting figure in the background, a shadow who occasionally popped in, stirred things up, and then disappeared. My mother divorced him when I was 10, and honestly, it was long overdue. Rick wasn't a provider, a partner, or even a decent father. He was lazy, selfish, and manipulative. What he did have, though, was his looks, and he relied on them his entire life. Rick was a stunningly handsome man, tall with chiseled features, piercing blue eyes, and a charming smile that made women fall at his feet. I can't count the number of times I overheard comments about how good-looking he was. But while he looked like a dream, his personality was a nightmare. He was entitled, lazy, and always looking for someone else to clean up his messes. He could charm his way into anyone's life, but staying in it was another story. My parents' marriage was doomed from the start. My mom was a hardworking, practical woman who wanted stability and a partner to build a life with. Rick, on the other hand, wanted the easy way out. He had big ideas, get-rich-quick schemes, pipe dreams of becoming a successful entrepreneur. But he never put in the effort to make them happen. Instead, he spent most of his time lounging on the couch, watching TV, and flirting with women whenever the opportunity arose. My mom worked multiple jobs to keep food on the table, while Rick sat around, spinning tales about how his big break was just around the corner. The final straw came when I was 10. My mom came home early one day to find Rick lying on the couch, flirting with women on the phone, while my lunch sat untouched on the kitchen counter. That was it for her. She filed for divorce a week later. Rick played the victim throughout the entire process. He told anyone who would listen that my mom was tearing the family apart and that she was too demanding, not supporting of his dreams. In reality, she just wanted him to grow up and contribute. But that was too much for Rick. After the divorce, my mom was awarded full custody, and Rick was ordered to pay child support. He didn't. After the divorce, Rick's visits became sporadic at best. He'd show up every few months with grand promises and fake enthusiasm. "I'm going to start my own business," he'd say. "Next time you see me, I'll be a millionaire." Of course, next time often didn't come, and when it did, he was still the same broke, self-absorbed man. Meanwhile, my mom worked tirelessly to give me a stable life. She picked up extra shifts, made sure I had what I needed for school, and always put me first. It wasn't easy for her, and I resented Rick more and more with every passing year. He never paid a dime of child support, leaving my mom to shoulder all the financial burdens. Every once in a while, he'd pop in with a cheap gift or a smooth line, but it was clear he didn't really care about me. He cared about looking like he cared. Fast forward to now. I'm 30, with a stable career and a life I've worked hard to build with support of my amazing mother. Rick and I haven't been close in years, so I was surprised when he called me out of the blue, asking to meet. Out of curiosity, and maybe a bit of morbid fascination, I agreed. When I saw him, I barely recognized him. The years had not been kind, but he still had his charming smile. After some small talk, Rick got to the point. "I need your help," he said, leaning in as if he were about to share a deep secret. "I've met someone." He proceeded to tell me about Caroline, a woman from an old money family. According to Rick, Caroline's parents were multimillionaires with a sprawling estate, luxury cars, and a family business that generated millions annually. Rick, ever the opportunist, saw this as his golden ticket. "She's the one," he said, grinning, "but I need your help to seal the deal." Rick's help wasn't what I expected. He wanted me to lend him a substantial amount of money so he could impress Caroline and her family. His plan was to use the money to buy expensive clothes, rent a luxury car, and plan an over-the-top proposal. He claimed that once he married Caroline, he'd pay me back. "And after her parents are gone," he added, "we'll inherit millions. I'll make sure you're taken care of." I sat there, staring at him in disbelief. This wasn't just about borrowing money. It was about conning someone into marrying him for their wealth. "You're serious?" I asked, hoping I'd misunderstood. "Of course I'm serious," he said. "This is our chance, our big break. Once I'm in, everything will change." I couldn't believe his audacity. "Our chance," I said, my voice rising. "You've never done anything for me. Why would I help you with this?" Rick's grin faltered. "Come on, kid," he said, trying to sound charming. "I'm trying to make a better life for both of us." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not giving you a dime, and I'm definitely not helping you scam someone into marrying you." Rick didn't like what he heard. "You're being selfish," he snapped. "I'm trying to build something here, for both of us." But I wasn't falling for it. "You're not building anything," I said. "You're trying to leech off someone else's hard work, just like you always have." After our meeting, I couldn't stop thinking about Caroline. She seemed like an innocent woman who had no idea what kind of man she was dealing with. The thought of Rick manipulating her and her family made my blood boil. I debated what to do for days, torn between staying out of it and doing the right thing. In the end, I decided Caroline deserved to know the truth. With some online sleuthing, I found her work email address and sent her a polite but honest message. I introduced myself as Rick's estranged child and laid out his history, his refusal to pay child support, his pattern of using people, and his womanizing ways. I explained that my intention wasn't to hurt her, but to give her the information she needed to make an informed decision. A few days later, Caroline replied. She thanked me for reaching out and said she had already been having doubts about Rick. My email confirmed her suspicions, and she assured me she would be ending the relationship. She also thanked me for giving her the clarity to see through his facade. When Rick found out, he blew up my phone with furious calls and texts, accusing me of ruining his life. "You had no right to interfere," he shouted in one voicemail. "This wasn't your business." At first, I ignored him, but when the messages kept coming, I finally replied. "You ruined your own life," I wrote. "You've spent decades using people and avoiding responsibility. Don't blame me for telling the truth." Rick's response was full of anger and guilt-tripping. He said I'd condemned him to a life of poverty, and that I'd regret it when I was older. But honestly, I don't regret it one bit. Rick has spent his entire life taking from others, and it was time someone held him accountable. Part of me wonders if I overstepped by contacting Caroline. Maybe it wasn't my place to get involved. But another part of me feels like I did the right thing. Rick has hurt so many people in his life, and I couldn't stand by and let him take advantage of someone else. Caroline deserved to know the truth, even if it meant Rick would never forgive me. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to lend my dad money and warning his wealthy fiancé about his past? OP's dad sounds like the textbook definition of a narcissist. Someone who thinks the world owes him something because he's handsome or charming. But life doesn't work like that, and he's learning that the hard way. He spent decades avoiding responsibility, whether it was paying child support, being a present father, or building an honest life. Now, instead of doing the work to better himself, he's trying to manipulate another person to get ahead. The audacity of him to not only ask OP for money, but also to try to guilt OP into helping with such an obviously selfish and unethical plan is infuriating. And when OP didn't play along, he had the nerve to accuse OP of ruining his life? No, he ruined his own life with his choices. In my opinion, OP did the right thing by warning Caroline. She needed to know who she was really dealing with, and OP honestly might have saved her from a lifetime of regret. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. Your dad has spent his entire life skating by on his looks and charm, manipulating people, and refusing to take responsibility for anything. The fact that he thought it was okay to ask his own child for money to fund his ridiculous scheme is mind-blowing. It's not like he was asking for help to better himself. He wanted you to bankroll a con, to trap a wealthy woman into marrying him. You absolutely did the right thing by refusing to enable him and warning Caroline. She deserved to know the truth about the man she was about to let into her life. Honestly, you probably saved her from years of heartache and financial ruin. Your dad is reaping the consequences of his own actions, and instead of taking accountability, he's blaming you for exposing him. Don't let him guilt-trip you into thinking you did something wrong. You showed incredible integrity by standing up for what's right, and that's something to be proud of. First of all, not the a-hole. Your dad doesn't deserve a single ounce of your guilt or regret. He spent his entire life making selfish choices, avoiding responsibility, and using people, including your mom and you. And now, when his looks and charm aren't enough to carry him, he thinks he can manipulate you into funding his next scheme? Absolutely not. The fact that he thought it was appropriate to drag you into this mess and then blame you for his failures is beyond ridiculous. You didn't ruin his life. He's just upset because you told the truth, and the truth exposed him for who he really is. If anything, you've done Caroline an enormous favor. She deserves to know the kind of person she was about to marry, and you gave her the chance to walk away before it was too late. Don't let your dad's guilt trips or tantrums make you second-guess yourself. You owe him nothing, and you made the right call. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your dad has relied on his looks and charm to skate through life, but that only works for so long. You didn't interfere. You did the right thing by giving Caroline the information she needed to make an informed decision. It's rich that your dad is blaming you for his failures when he's done nothing to earn anyone's trust or respect. Good for you for standing up for yourself and for her. I, 23 male, married my wife, 24 female, last year before the whole pandemic fiasco. I was lucky not to get affected by the pandemic and got the order of alternating between working at home for 1 week and coming to the office on the next one, which works fine by me. My sister-in-law, 34 female, and her husband, however, are not so lucky. Both of them got fired from their job because of cost cutting, which forced them to move in with my in-laws. Around June of last year, I came home from work to find boxes and bags in the living room and saw my niece and nephews running around the house. My wife pulled me aside and told me that her family got evicted from their home and have nowhere else to go, so she invited them to come stay with us, without my permission. I was furious, but figured that it is not worth fighting over, especially when they are already here, so I let it slide. My wife promised that her sister and brother-in-law would try to find jobs as soon as possible, move out with my in-laws, and reimburse me for the food or any other necessities that I provided for them. Months go by, and there's no sign of them even trying. My in-laws also look like they are in no hurry to find some way to move out or find somewhere else to stay. They treat my home like it is their own, since they begin putting away some old decoration on the excuse that it looked tacky before putting up their own taste of decor. I'm starting to feel like they are just using me for my money, since I'm the one who paid for everything, including the phone bills. I gave my wife an emergency card to be used, but she misused it for her family, so I took it back. Earlier this year, I confronted them about when they can move out, and they flip out on me. My in-laws have the audacity to insult me by saying that my late grandparents literally hand me down everything I have, and how I should not have any problem with them living with me for the foreseeable future. Just to be clear, the house belongs to my late grandparents, so it means so much to me. They literally put me as the sole inheritor to everything they own, including their savings and life insurances. I got angry and leave the house. My wife has been texting me nonstop ever since, telling me to come back and apologize for trying to kick her family out of my house and how selfish I was for putting money over family. I reminded her of her promise, and she hung up on me. My guilty conscience keeps telling me that I should just let them live there, since they are my wife's family and my in-laws, and are old now. But I'm tired of having to deal with the stress from both my high-stress job and at home. So, will I be the a-hole for throwing my wife's family out of my house? Update. I pull my wife aside and tell her my decision, and she, of course, flipped out on me. She cursed me out for wanting to kick out her family, and accidentally revealed about them selling the fine china that is displaying in the dining room a few weeks back, because they don't have any money. Those fine china are my family heirlooms that my grandmother got from her mother, and I treasure it so much. It is so ridiculous for her to sell it, since I have a grocery subscription sent to the house every week that would be enough to feed all of them. I told that she and her family have until Monday to pack their stuff and leave. Got the police involved when they didn't, and I filed a divorce on that same day. I have hired several handymen to fix the house. Not the a-hole. They weren't suddenly evicted one day. They knew they were going to be evicted. They had time to box everything up and arrange to take it to your house. Your wife planned this behind your back. I have to wonder if any of this was planned before you were married. You need to contact a lawyer and get rid of the in-laws. Be prepared to get a divorce. In the meantime, do not do anything that could cause your wife to get pregnant. She should be working with you and helping her family get out. You've been married for such a short amount of time. She should not be wanting to share that time with her entire family. Everybody sucks here. You had me until you called it my house, in all caps. I'm imagining you stomping your feet with a scowl as you say it. Did you seriously not put your wife's name on the house when you inherited it? If that's not the case, it might not be your in-laws' house, but it is your wife's as well as yours. She sucks for not discussing it with you beforehand. Not because the house is yours, but because it's both of yours. The person suggesting you get a lawyer and start eviction proceedings is being ridiculous. Unless this is the hill you choose to die on, and you're okay blowing up your marriage over it. Yes, the situation sucks, but I can promise you the overall cost, financial, mental, emotional, of doing so will be much, much worse than putting up with your in-laws for a little longer. Definitely do give them a firm deadline to get out so they know you mean business. Hopefully it'll make them take the job hunt more seriously. March 2017, Sosua, Dominican Republic. For context, as I doubt most people will be tropical weather enthusiasts around here, let me explain the wonders of Dominican rainy days. 10 o'clock a.m., brain-melting sun that makes you want to move to Alaska and marry an effing seal. 11:15 a.m., torrential rain, the Great Flood. Get ready for some scuba diving on the highway. 11:30 a.m., see weather for 10 a.m. Reception. I, 20 female, am a humble front desk receptionist, stressed and holding all of my anxiety behind my standard public service smile and a cheerful attitude. The day is slow, for now, and in my free time, I am going through the check-ins we are expecting for the day, making sure all the welcome packs are ready to go as soon as the clients show up. A colleague, the new girl, is sneakily checking her phone under the front desk, and I don't blame her. It has been raining on and off for like 2 hours now. Sun, then rain, then sun again. Right now, it's raining again, and I can hear the heavy drops falling on the glass ceiling of the main hall. I almost wish it would collapse on me and end my suffering, but I stay strong and continue being a productive member of society. Then he comes, like a banana on the sidewalk, like death at a picnic. The German. I gotta say, the majority of German folk are the most polite people on earth, usually my favorite clients, and I deal with them a lot since I'm one of the 4 people in the hotel that can actually speak their language. But this specific family, I can feel the floor rumbling when this bear of a blonde man approaches the front desk. The floor ducking trembles at every step. He is big, wearing a horrible shirt with all the colors in the wrong places, and also as red as a tomato. Like most Germans, not used to the awfully strong sun, and too cool for sunscreen. He brings the family in. Wifey, a clearly Dominican girl who's way younger than him and wearing nothing but a bikini and a Louis Vuitton bag whilst hypnotized by her phone for the whole exchange. And 2 little girls that look like a Latin American-German mix, approximately 6 and 10 years old, that are running around the family playing catch, talking in Spanish and giggling. The Deutsch giant hits the desk with a graceful fist in an attempt to attract my nice colleague's attention. She immediately puts away the phone, smiles, and tries to greet him in English. Nice colleague. Good morning, Mr. Ed. How can I? He cuts her off and starts yelling at her in fast, angry German. He also keeps hitting the desk to emphasize his discontent. The poor girl looks like she is about to cry and looks at me confused and scared. I jump in and approach him in German. He seems less angry. ED. Finally! You should have interpreters here all the time. It's incredibly unprofessional. I shouldn't have to learn English or Spanish to go on vacations. I should be here relaxing. We do have interpreters. They work on pager issues. When you need one, you page them and they go wherever they are needed. But I know that explaining it to him will just make him more mad. So I put in place my number 1 rule. Let the stupid people believe stupid things. OP. I'll make sure we have one here in reception more often, sir. Now, how can I help you? He seems calm for now. He looks at the family, looks back at me, points at the glass ceiling, and says in the most condescending voice, ED. It's raining again. He caught me off guard. I didn't understand if he was trying to make small talk or if he was actually complaining to the reception about the rain. OP. Yes, sir. What a shame, right? Let's hope tomorrow will be sunny. I decided to treat it as small talk, and that doesn't make him happy. He is astonished that I don't see the issue. The ballerina-like fist is slammed again on the counter as he yells at me with the look of somebody who is really considering invading Poland. ED. I paid for this holiday. Paid to come in this tropical country and enjoy the sun, not to see rain every day of the whole week. It's ruining my vacation. He is absolutely convinced I should do something about it, and I am so tempted to just tell him to wait a second while I check the weather machine. But I know sarcasm will be my grave if he feels like I'm making fun of him. So I silently lose an inch of hope in humanity and do my ducking job, and I do it good. I show him a long series of fun family activities that can be done even if it's raining: petting zoo, underground swimming pool, Monkey Island, etc. He seems interested in the rain rafting passes. They take you down some rapids in a canoe, and it's even better when it's raining. I managed to sell him 4 of those, and he leaves with a happy family. The 2 little girls never behaved in an entitled way. They were rambunctious and running around, but they were always close to the mom and never too loud. Just 2 kids on vacation. I never saw the mom talk to this dude, but she did look up with a disappointed look when he started complaining about the rain. I was grateful the rest of the family was minding their business. I go back to my work, proud of myself for turning a complaint into commission money. Yay me! Unfortunately, disgrace always brings his friend disaster to the table. And not even an hour after, it's time for Round 2, Fight! It stopped raining like half an hour ago, but I don't even notice because of a charming event that happens almost every day when you work reception. It's time for 1,000 check-ins all at the same time when only 2 people are behind the counter because duck you, receptionist. Fun game. Play it with your family. Might not be suitable for people with heart conditions. The angry mustache is back, and he couldn't care less about the queue. With his recognizable loveliness and patience, he pushes back the cute couple on honeymoon I was serving and slams his effing fist on the desk again. By now, I feel like shoving it inside his... Never mind. I swallow my hate and show off my best customer service smile. OP. I am very sorry, sir. If you would just allow me to finish the transaction with these guests, I'll be with you in a minute. He is not having it. ED. I bought passes for the rafting, but not even 5 minutes in, it stopped raining, and there wasn't enough water to go fast after it stopped. I want my money back. I try to explain to him that because he already used the pass, I can't reimburse him. OP. You will be able to use that pass any other time. You could just wait for another rainy day, sir. He is even redder now. He looks like he is going to explode. Luftwaffe style. ED. I am leaving tomorrow. Are you dumb? I want my money, and I want to do the canoe thing today. Get me your manager, now. I happily call my supervisor, who is also front desk manager, and a really ducking hot Dominican woman. She speaks like 10 languages, does her job like a boss. She takes no crap, and I know it well. I might have the tiniest crush on her, but don't tell her. She shows up wearing black high heels and a black suit, fiery red hair, and dark red lipstick. She is fairly short, shorter than me even with heels, but she has a tall aura, like a mighty, dangerous fairy. She is fierce. My little gay heart misses a beat. In the most elegant German possible, she says, HM, good afternoon. Sorry for the wait. I'm OP supervisor and front desk manager. What seems to be the problem? As soon as she introduces herself, the German org starts a tirade about how much service sucks, about how I sold him a pass for raining canoes and then it stopped raining. He ends the monologue repeating like 3 times that this country sucks. ED. This place is crap. Why call it tropical if it's always raining? Unbelievable. I came here to see sun and warm weather, not rain for a full week. Are you going to do something about it? All this time, Hot Manager is listening carefully and shaking her head with empathy for the poor man's misadventures. I try to chime in to explain to her my side, but she shushes me and points to the clients in the queue. I keep doing my job while she deals with him on the other side of the counter. After he is done with his therapy session, he waits for an answer, since Hot Manager hasn't said anything yet. With extreme nonchalance, professionality, calm, and politeness, she asks, HM. OP, pass me the reception phone, please. This problem needs to be dealt with immediately. ED seems pleased that she is taking his complaint so seriously and is gloating with pride, sending me "I told you so" looks. I grab the phone and put it on the counter. She grabs it, thanks me, and starts dialing a number I've never seen. The owner? The all-powerful director? The head of security? What the duck is going on? She waits a second on the line and then starts talking, and when she does, I convince myself I need to marry this woman. HM. Good afternoon. This is HM from Hotel Blah Blah. Is this Eden? Could you put me through with our Lord and Savior? Tell him it's Anne calling. Yes, I can wait. Thank you very much. ED is equally confused and furious. I can see the top of his head so red I could probably fry an egg on it. After a couple seconds of silence, she keeps speaking. "Hey, Jesus, my man, how are you doing up there? Is the big man okay? Send my regards. Listen, I need a favor. Could you please stop the rain here in Sosua?" "Really? Awesome. I owe you one, mate." She hangs up the phone and smiles innocently to the fuming, humiliated man. He then grabs the two little girls and drags them to their room, screaming something incoherent about a bad TripAdvisor review. Even the mom is laughing behind them, yet the girls are crying because of all the yelling. I am frantically translating everything she said on the phone to my colleague in Spanish, and we are almost having a stroke trying not to laugh. After he is gone, she turns around, smiles, and says to me, "HM, good job on selling him those passes. Even I couldn't smile at that dude for more than 30 seconds. Now, I want to see that queue gone when I come back in an hour. Come on, girls." And she disappears, heels elegantly ticking on the floor, and I just keep thinking, "Duck, I need to ask her out." P.S. That same manager 8 months after gave me a promotion as trainee general manager, and we are still very good friends. Unfortunately, I left the country before I had the opportunity to ask her out without any conflict of interest. Since she was my boss, it would have been inappropriate to do it while working there. He goes to a country where the predominant languages are English and Spanish, and expects people to know German? I'd like to see someone show up at his workplace in Germany and expect to speak English. After all, why should they learn to speak German? After all, there are 19,181,945 reasons why people in Germany need to learn English. Your manager was savage. Jesus? Hello, I'm calling again. You remember your friend Anne, right? Well, can you give me a boss like her? No? Okay. I'm going to continue my boring life. Parenting is a balancing act, and sometimes the choices you make with the best intentions end up causing more harm than good. I, 56 female, am a mother of two wonderful daughters, Claire, 32 female, and Emma, 24 female. Both of them are incredible in their own ways, but they're also very different people with different personalities, values, and goals. I've always tried to be fair, but recently, a decision I made has thrown our family into chaos, and now I'm left wondering if I made the wrong choice. First, let me explain the background of the car. When I was 25, I bought a vintage Porsche 911. It wasn't in the best condition when I got it, but I spent years lovingly restoring it, pouring my heart and soul into every detail. It became my pride and joy, a symbol of my hard work and perseverance. Over the years, it became more than just a car. It became part of our family's story. When Emma was about 14, she fell in love with the Porsche. She'd sit in it, help me wash it, and talk about how one day she'd drive it. She was fascinated by its design, the sound of the engine, and everything it represented. By the time she was 18, I told her, "When you graduate from university, this car will be yours." It was my way of encouraging her to work hard and achieve her goals. Emma was thrilled, and it became a running joke in our family that the Porsche was her car, even though I still drove it. Claire, my older daughter, has always been the more responsible one. She married her husband James at 27, and together they started a small business, a boutique furniture store. For the past 5 years, they've poured everything into it, working long hours and sacrificing vacations to build something they could be proud of. I've always admired their dedication and passion. But earlier this year, the cracks began to show. The economy hasn't been kind to small businesses, and with rising costs and dwindling sales, they've been struggling to stay afloat. A few weeks ago, Claire came to me, visibly upset. She explained that they were in serious financial trouble. If they didn't put more money into the business soon, they'd have to shut it down. She begged me to help, saying it wasn't just her livelihood at stake, but also their employees' jobs. I wanted to help. Claire has always been such a hard-working and kind person, and the thought of her losing everything broke my heart. But I didn't have any savings to give her. My own finances are comfortable, but modest, and I don't have much wiggle room. The only thing of significant value that I owned was the Porsche. I agonized over the decision. On one hand, I'd promised the car to Emma, and I knew how much it meant to her. On the other hand, Claire was desperate, and I felt an obligation to help her. I told myself that the Porsche was just a car, while Claire and James were facing a life-altering crisis. After a few sleepless nights, I made the decision to sell the Porsche. I didn't tell Emma beforehand because I knew she'd be devastated, and I couldn't bear to face her anger and disappointment while I was already feeling so torn. I told myself I'd explain everything afterward, and she'd understand once she saw the bigger picture. The Porsche sold quickly for a good price, and I gave the money to Claire and James. They were incredibly grateful, promising they'd pay me back as soon as they could. I could see the relief in Claire's eyes, and for a moment, I felt like I'd made the right choice. Then Emma found out. When she came home for a weekend visit and saw the empty spot in the garage, she immediately knew something was wrong. "Where's the Porsche?" she asked, her voice filled with panic. I hesitated, but finally told her the truth. She didn't take it well. "You sold it?" she shouted, her voice breaking. "You promised it to me. It was supposed to be my car." I tried to explain my reasoning, telling her about Claire and James's situation and how they desperately needed the money. But Emma wasn't having it. "You didn't even ask me," she said. "You just sold it like it didn't matter. Do you know how much that car meant to me?" Her words hit me hard. I tried to apologize, but she wouldn't listen. She packed her things and left early, and since then, she's barely spoken to me. She made it clear that she feels betrayed, and she's even hinted that she doesn't know if she can forgive me. Meanwhile, Claire and James have been doing their best to turn the business around. The money I gave them helped cover some immediate expenses, but their situation is still precarious. Claire knows how upset Emma is, and she's been apologetic, but she's also made it clear that she believes I did the right thing. "You saved us, Mom," she said. "I don't know what we would have done without you." Now I'm stuck in the middle, torn between my two daughters. Emma feels like I broke a sacred promise, and I can't blame her. The Porsche was more than just a car to her. It was a symbol of our bond and something she dreamed about for years. Selling it without telling her feels like a betrayal, and I don't know how to make it right. At the same time, I couldn't stand by and watch Claire and James lose everything. I felt like I had to choose between helping one daughter in a crisis and keeping a promise to the other. In the moment, I chose Claire, but now I'm questioning everything. I never meant to hurt Emma, and I hate that this decision has caused so much pain. I've tried reaching out to her, but she's still angry and hasn't been willing to have a real conversation. I don't know if she'll ever forgive me. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for selling the vintage car I promised my younger daughter to help my older daughter in her husband's failing business? I understand OP was trying to help Claire, but selling the Porsche after promising it to Emma was a massive breach of trust. That car wasn't just a vehicle, it was something she'd been looking forward to for years, and OP took that away without even consulting her. It's not about the car itself, it's about the promise OP made and how she broke it. I feel for Claire, but there were other ways to help her. Selling the Porsche should have been a last resort, and even then, OP owed Emma a conversation before making such a big decision. I hope OP can find a way to make this right with her, but I don't blame her for feeling betrayed. And now let's hear the community's opinion. This is a tough one, but I'm leaning toward you're the a-hole. You were in an impossible situation, and I get that you were trying to do the right thing. But Emma's feelings are completely valid. You made her a promise, and that car clearly meant a lot to her, not just as a possession, but as a symbol of your bond. Selling it without telling her was a huge mistake, and I think that's why she's so hurt. You should have at least had a conversation with her and tried to find another solution together. I understand why you wanted to help Claire, but this decision has created a rift that might be hard to repair. No a-holes. This is one of those situations where there's no easy answer, and someone was always going to get hurt. You were stuck between two daughters, each with valid needs and feelings. On one hand, Emma has every right to feel betrayed. This wasn't just about the car, it was about the promise you made and how much it meant to her. On the other hand, Claire was in a desperate situation, and as a parent, it's natural to want to help your child when they're in crisis. I think the real issue is how you handled it. Selling the car without telling Emma or involving her in the decision was a mistake. I hope you can find a way to rebuild your relationship with her, but it's going to take time and effort. You're the a-hole, but not irredeemably so. It's clear you were coming from a place of love and wanting to help your older daughter, but in doing so, you broke a promise to Emma that meant the world to her. The fact that you didn't even tell her beforehand makes it worse. It probably made her feel like her feelings didn't matter at all. I get that you were in a tough spot, but this was a major breach of trust, and it's going to take a lot to repair that relationship. I'd suggest finding a way to make it up to Emma, not just with words, but with actions. Maybe start by looking for another vintage car that could be a meaningful replacement, even if it's not the same. My wife and I retired early from our office desk jobs last year in our early 50s. We live a frugal life and put enough into our 401k, IRAs, and investments that we felt we were at a good enough place to retire and live off them. We're not millionaires or rich by any means, but we did well for ourselves through some strategic planning. Our son and our daughter-in-law are struggling to save up for a down payment, and they asked us if we could sell our house to him at a reduced rate, almost 50% of what its current market rate is, and we said no. Our rental properties are part of our retirement plan, and we weren't even planning on selling this one, even if our son would have offered to buy it at full price. We don't have access to our retirement accounts yet, so our rental properties are where we get our income from. We told him he could rent it from us at a reduced rate, 80% of what our current tenants pay, but he said he couldn't afford that and he wasn't interested in renting anymore. I suggested maybe finding a house in a lower price range, and I could give him $10,000 to help with the mortgage, but he didn't like that either and threatened to cut us off. I didn't budge on my decision because I don't want to jeopardize our retirement plans in any capacity and have to depend on someone else in our old age. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, not even a little bit, given your alternative generous offers. Your son and daughter-in-law are definitely entitled a-holes. Completely. These rental homes are basically your income. You say you are retired, but you are actually still landlords actively making money each month. So he basically wants you to give him part of your money each month. He should be proud to have parents that were able to retire so young and be asking your advice. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. 50% off is an enormous amount. If you could easily afford it and it was a case of, oh well, that's one less holiday in the Bahamas for us for the next few years, I guess you could argue for it. But as far as I can read, you've decided to retire early and you're dependent on the property income until you get access to your 401k. So selling at a reduced price would put financial pressure on you. In that case, you shouldn't feel pressured into that at all. It sounds like you've been relatively generous by offering to help them with a deposit on a place. I think your son's being a bit of an entitled a-hole here. I, female, have been with John for 11 years. He has 3 children from his previous marriage, 27 female, 23 female, and 20 male. I'll talk about Henry, 20 male. John's old marriage didn't end in the most healthy way, I'd say, and the divorce was a pretty mess. It was a legal battle for custody of the children, as his ex wanted full custody and he wanted 50-50. This was 15 years ago. Apparently, the kids took sides with each parent, the girls with John and Henry with their mother. And even though he spent thousands on family therapy, Henry's relationship with John was never the same after the parents signed their divorce. When I was introduced as a girlfriend by John, 5 years after the divorce, as you can predict, Henry didn't react well, and at first I tried to approach him. But eventually, I got tired of getting only spicy and rude comments, leaving him alone. Eventually, the girls asked to move in with my husband and the judge granted, and I moved in with John after 2 years. So I have a close relationship with them, unlike Henry. As time went on, he stopped coming on weekends, despite John trying very hard. 1 year ago, John said he missed Henry. He hadn't seen him for months and he barely responded to messages. College. I decided to try to surprise him and called Henry, asking if he would like to come on the X day, John's birthday, to celebrate, and that I would pay for everything. He responded with, "I know you're not capable of having children, but stop trying to make me yours. We're nothing." This upset me a lot, because I don't have children because I had cancer, and he knows it. I told John and he got really mad, and it caused an argument between them. Well, in a few months it will be my wedding, delayed because of the virus. And when it came time to send the invitations, I was very honest with John that I don't feel comfortable with Henry coming to the wedding, and I doubt he would. And if he did, maybe cause confusion, in addition to being sad for what he said to me that day. But I would understand if he called. He agreed for Henry not to go, and said he would talk to Henry about it. When Henry and his mother found out, they started texting me saying that I was pushing his father away, and that it was cruel of me to just have excluded him. I invited the sisters. Calling all names, he tried to guilt trip on me for being the reason for his estrangement from his father. Their relationship was already out of date well before I met John. I just really don't feel comfortable inviting someone who has never made a point of interacting with me and has said hurtful things to me, and that from the beginning was against my relationship with his father. and I didn't force John to do that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Although, as you said, he probably wouldn't have shown up to the wedding anyway. I think there was a small risk he would have shown up and ruined the wedding if he wanted to. I think it's time the ex and Henry and his dad sit down and have a talk, that he should at least be civil around you and the family, especially now that he's a grown adult. Not the a-hole. Henry's 20 years old, more than old enough to realize if you treat people like crap, you get excluded for your trouble. That said, this is mostly on his mother. Unless John's secret identity is some sort of aggressive monster, I highly doubt a 5-year-old would support 100% custody from either parent without someone whispering in their ear about it. It's very likely that Mommy Dearest has been actively poisoning him all these years as revenge for standing up to her. Your relationship with him isn't going to improve no matter what you do. Even if you did invite him to your wedding, he's likely to try to ruin it, whether by his mother's instruction or by his own accord. Honestly, I think you made an error. If you had invited him and not pushed, he likely would have declined to come to spite you, and you could have kept your hands clean. By saying you aren't invited, you've put yourself into a much more difficult position because it's ammo for them to use against you. How else would someone react to a stepmom saying the groom's child isn't invited? Knee-jerk response from the kid, ex, and family will be against you. Not the a-hole. I'm not saying you did something wrong, just pointing out that this may not have been the best strategy. So, I'm in a predicament right now. My mother-in-law has 3 grandsons. My husband's brother's 2 boys, 4 and 6 years, and our boy, 2 years. She has always showed favoritism towards the other 2 boys, especially the oldest, since he was what made her a grandmother. She'll offer to watch them and go over to their house multiple times a week, and they live 45 minutes away. My husband basically has to bribe his mom to come over and see our son, and that's usually inviting her over for supper, and she'll show up 2 minutes before our son's bedtime, long after supper has been over, and we only live 10 minutes from her house. She posts all over Facebook about the other 2 boys, and sometimes about our son. But when I post anything about our boy, she likes to come off as the doting grandmother. Okay, so fast forward to today. We asked if she could watch our boy, which we rarely do, and she said she was with the other 2 boys, but she would gladly watch him with the other 2 at about 8 p.m. Well, our son's bedtime is at 7:30, and she was going to come here with the other kids and spend the night. We asked why so late. Turns out, she hired a photographer to take pictures of her, my father-in-law, and the 2 boys to make a Christmas card, and not including my son. I could see my husband was hurt by this, so I told him to ask why our boy wasn't included, and her excuse was we wanted him there, but we had no way to get him there in secret for it to be a surprise. And I told him she was just backpedaling, because she was caught. I told him he should just stop asking her to come over and spend time or watch our son. I canceled my plans tonight because I thought she didn't have the right to hang out with my kid, and part of my job of being a parent is that sometimes plans get canceled because you don't have childcare. And I'm 100% okay with that. It's life. I don't need to go out anyway, but good Lord. My husband still wants to keep trying, and I get it. It's his mom, but I feel like she's doing more damage than good. Don't get me wrong, I won't keep her from her grandchild, but I also feel like we should no longer ask her to come over. So, am I the a-hole for saying to no longer reach out to her? Not the a-hole. If she truly wanted to see her other grandson, she would make plans herself. Trying to force a relationship between her and your son will only end with him hurt and feeling less than the other 2. Not the a-hole. Her behavior is really going to screw with your kid. It's going to make him feel inferior to his cousins. I wouldn't let her around him at all. All she's going to do is hurt his feelings. Not the a-hole. If you let her have access to your son, as he gets older, he'll see that she has little love for him. Having any relationship with her will be damaging. It's better to limit contact. Drop the rope and you'll be much happier. Background. I, 30 female, have been working in a company, and last year, due to virus, they announced increment and promotion freeze as part of cost-saving measure in exchange of no retrenchment. And they did keep the promise. However, this year, our revenue exceeded expectation with the gradual reopening, so there were rumors that promotion was on the table. I'm one of the top performers of my department, not sales-based, so I tried to join the competition. However, seeing how driven my colleagues were, I chose to bow out. This is also partially because my colleagues have financial commitments, so needed the extra money. Whereas for me, I am not married, no children, and only have mortgage. I also earn a couple hundred extra every month from my trust fund. I use this for easier understanding. So, sadly, they announced the staff performance results, and I got the promotion. This surprised me and I was happy. However, few days later, I was investigated by HR for bribery and my promotion was put on hold. I was shocked and found out Kay, my other top-performing colleague, reported me based on my peer review, higher than his, and hence my overall score was higher. He has the highest performance review. I was second. During investigation, turns out Kay reported about me sending birthday cakes to my branch's staffs, 10 people in 5 branches, in the past year as potential bribery. I was put on unpaid suspension, and my branches and myself needed to submit various documents to show that all I sent them was a $20 cake, or cheaper. I did this since I couldn't travel to see them, so I figured I'd send them something small to maintain working relationship. There is no specific bribery policy in my company, as long as it is not in excess. My department was also investigated as I sent the people I worked with, and 20 of them, Christmas cupcakes last year since we were all working from home. I have always done this, and even before virus, and Kay, one of the recipients, never saw the issue. Long story short, after 2 weeks of unpaid suspension, I was cleared and my promotion went through. First day back, Kay pulled me aside. While we were somber, he did not apologize to me. He asked if I could keep the title and give him the increment instead. I was shocked by the audacity and chided him instead, and how he is putting me and everyone I work with in danger of losing our jobs, especially in this virus time. Again, he was somber and quiet, but did not apologize, and I left. It has been a few days, and my other colleagues have approached me to explain that Kay is in a financial strain, as he just had his second child, and his wife was put on furlough due to virus. They asked me to be understanding and give up the increment portion, since I do come from a wealthy family and did not need the extra money anyway. Edit. To answer some of the most common questions, Kay is not fired because there was no false reporting. I gave the gifts, but the final result was immaterial for it to be considered bribe. Unpaid suspension hold because, again, no false reporting, but I am not in any trouble since it is immaterial. I'm not sure if it is allowed or legal. I never think that far, and thank God I didn't. As from comments, seems like I will be in real bribery charge then. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I am shocked that your company didn't fire Kay for being malicious. You don't owe Kay a damn thing. Not the a-hole. Go back to HR. Tell them that Kay is conducting an unorganized campaign against you, and you need it to stop. Also, stop feeling guilty about being recognized for your hard work. Maybe Kay would have earned the promotion fair and square if he didn't waste so much time and energy on acting entitled to it. And keep your eye out for other opportunities elsewhere, because any company that didn't figure out this was Kay's problem and nip that in the bud is probably not a place you want to stay. Not the a-hole. This man intentionally reported you for nothing, hoping he would end up with the promotion. When it didn't work, he had the audacity to ask you for the money. Absolutely do not give it to him. If he is having financial issues, he'll need to figure it out on his own. You're neither his family nor friend, and he doesn't deserve your help, especially after his abominable behavior. Edited to add, the petty part of me really wants you to tell him something like, "If I gave you that money, that could be seen as a bribe. Sorry," in a super cheerful tone with a smile. My mother-in-law has issues with other people's events. Weddings seem to be her big trigger, but she has been known to go a little bat-crap insane over birthdays and graduations as well. Now, I've occasionally heard of some jealousy coming out when the mom didn't get a wedding of her own, but mother-in-law had a big, beautiful wedding. She just can't stand not to be in the center of attention. It was bad when sister-in-law got married. She wore the most over-the-top sparkly dress, cried about how none of us love her, and hung all over father-in-law all night. She had a full-on breakdown during the family photos and demanded to know why dear husband never remembers her birthday. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much her kids love her, but her husband certainly does, so she was being ridiculous. She then got really drunk with her brother and cried until father-in-law took her home. I got married 2 years ago and I was worried, but mother-in-law was surprisingly calm. She was kind of reserved and sulky, but overall she was okay. Father-in-law kept telling her she was doing great and he was so proud, which I found weird because she wasn't actually doing anything. Father-in-law literally took her chin between his fingers during pictures and was like, "You are doing amazing. I'm so proud of you." Weird, but whatever. We had a birthday party for dear daughter the other day. Mother-in-law came without father-in-law because he had to golf. He actually did have to. It was business. Mother-in-law was fine, and sister-in-law made a joke about mother-in-law's doing so good without father-in-law there to bribe her. Dear husband asked what she meant, and sister-in-law laughed and said that when we got married, the only reason mother-in-law acted normal was because father-in-law promised her a weekend trip wherever she wanted, doing whatever she wanted, if she didn't throw a fit. I was just floored. This woman is 50 years old, and I said that was absolutely pathetic. Mother-in-law immediately got defensive and said I should shut up, and I have no right to judge her. Dear husband told her not to talk to me like that, and mother-in-law screamed at us that we were all horrible and we were picking on her. I said sorry if it was harsh, but she was pathetic, and she left crying. Father-in-law called dear husband later and cussed him out. He said that I am an evil witch. What he does with his wife is his business, and that I am making fun of her for having emotional issues. He said we are banned from his house until I apologize to his wife, and I know that hurt dear husband because he is so close to his dad. Everyone sucks here. I mean, is it a little sad that she needs to be bribed to stay calm in the presence of other people's happiness? Yes, absolutely. Would I tell her she's pathetic to her face? Probably not. In the end, OP got a nice wedding and she didn't have to pay for the trip. It didn't hurt her at all that father-in-law did some bribing. Is it pathetic? Yes. Do you say that to someone's face? No. Starting crap with a known drama llama makes you a drama llama yourself. You should have just done an internal eye roll and moved on. Feel lucky you didn't have a scene at your wedding and buy father-in-law some nice cookies as thanks. Not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law is an adult and she's acting like a toddler throwing a tantrum anytime she doesn't get her way or have all the attention on her. The fact that she had to be bribed by father-in-law and then coddled the whole time, "You're doing so well," in order for her to act like a decent grown-up is beyond ridiculous, especially because sulking and pouting the whole time is not doing so well, in my opinion. Your sister-in-law shouldn't have said anything in front of mother-in-law, since it clearly was going to start drama that wasn't needed, but I don't think your response was out of line. I too would have laughed out loud and said how ludicrous the whole situation is. It sounds like everyone is used to just going along with mother-in-law and her antics to keep the peace, which I don't necessarily agree with. I know mother-in-law and father-in-law keep stating emotional issues, but it sounds to me like her issues are to cry, throw a fit and guilt trip to get her way. So, not the a-hole.